Hi, everyone. Welcome. I'm just going to get my Instagram going, and then we will get started with this live Q&A. Give me one sec to get Instagram ready. It lags behind for some reason. Here we go. Okay. Hi, everyone. Welcome to Crushing Doubts Q&A. It's Thursdays at 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific, and I'm here as always to talk with you about mind-body symptoms. So, as always, I'm going to start by defining what that is because we always have people tuning in for the first time, and sometimes it's helpful just for everybody to remember, even myself. Mind-body issues are physical issues that come from our mental state. And that mental state can be feelings or it can be thinking. Whatever's going on in your brain can become very real in your body with all kinds of different symptoms. Now, why do I do this work? As many of you know, I have suffered mind body pain and other symptoms of many kinds over the years, but I really came to discover it with 8 years of chronic everyday back pain. And it was incredibly confusing. In fact, I just was going through the story of it as I was going back to edit the chapter in my book about my story. And I was even thinking about, why do I tell this story in such detail? And I don't want it to come across as I'm telling this story because I need to tell my story. My story is long behind me, and I'm very glad about that. But the story itself captures so many elements you will be able to relate to. And each sufferer needs that. We need to see ourselves in the stories that we hear. We need to see ourselves in the answers that we get about what's happening, or else we can't feel confident that we can get better. So this is really why I do this work, is to, well, not just the work, but the Q&A itself, is to get you answers to questions that you have. Because otherwise, if a mind-body experience comes from your brain and becomes real in the body, and you're continuing to have the exact same mental experience, you're going to continue to have the exact same physical experience. So the goal here is to help you understand what your questions are, get them asked, and get them answered to your full satisfaction. So one thing I want to encourage you throughout this Q&A and just in general with me is, if you ask a question and I don't answer to your full satisfaction, don't panic about that. That can happen because questions have a lot of detail to them and a lot of aspects that might need to get answered, and they may even be very specific to you. Push through that and ask your follow-up questions. Whatever's going on, we've got to get it answered, and you'll know when I answer a question and it feels right. It will click into place, and you'll relax about that. And listen, that relaxation, it goes straight from the head and into the body. So the whole idea is to get questions answered. One of the reasons I do this is this was what I wished I had had when I was getting better. I had so many questions. And I had one session with Eric Sherman, who trained with Dr. Sarno, and I asked him tons of questions. And by getting those answers, I felt so much more confident that I could get better. So that's what we're here to do. I'm going to get into my system soon. Let me say hi to some people first. Debbie Grubbs, good to see you on Instagram. Rita, thank you for joining us. Scotty Styles, thank you for joining us as well. And thanks for saying hi, both of you. And I see you saying hi to each other. It's one nice thing about this is the community that we build here together. Lynn Slavensky says, hi, everyone. She is on YouTube or maybe Facebook. Facebook comes through here as well, but I think YouTube. And Dorisa says, good afternoon, Dan and everyone. Good to see you all here. Debbie Grubb says, hi, Dan. Good to be here. Good to have you here, Debbie. The goal of today, as with any day, is to get your questions answered. So let's get right to that. And I'm going to talk about how I'm going to answer these questions. I'm not just answering questions about mind-body experience, but I'm also answering them in the way that fits in my column system. So why do I call it the column system? When I got better from back pain and I sat down to meet with people who were having similar experiences and to orient them to how to get better, I came to understand that there actually wasn't just one way of thinking about mind-body experience, which tends to be thought of as your feelings can cause what happens in your body. That is true. That can happen. But it's not the only part of mind-body experience. As I looked at it and as I got better, I really came to see feelings tend to lead to the onset and upticks of symptoms. So that initial back pain, that came from an unconscious emotional experience unconscious means you are not aware of it. And that got channeled into a bodily experience. But that was not the thing that kept it going for 8 years. I didn't have the same feeling for 8 years. And I wondered about that. I also noticed that my thought processes really were affecting whether the symptoms were happening or not. In fact, with spasms, which were my worst symptom uh, of the back pain episodes, I found that when I was afraid directly, it would almost instantly cause a spasm. Even thinking, oh no, I'm worried I might spasm, could cause a spasm. So I noticed thinking seemed to have a correlation as well. Well, what I found out about it as I investigated more and kind of came to understand my own experience is that the symptoms, when they linger or they seem chronic, that's actually happening because of your thinking. And in specific, it's happening because of something I call doubt. So we're looking at emotions, we're looking at doubt, and I'm going to talk about how they fit into my system. Doubt comes in four different forms. There's fear, confusion, lack of certainty, and unanswered questions. And any of those in some capacity will keep your thought process going and just lock it into place. So if you're looking for how to resolve an acute symptom that suddenly came up or a symptom that you were already having that suddenly got really worse, you're going to look at the emotions column. And it gets the columns get this name because I divided a sheet of paper for people, or had them do it, into three columns that would describe the different parts of mind body experience. Emotions column for onsets and upticks and those acute symptoms, the doubt column for your thinking and the symptoms that seem to be resistant and not move. And finally, the power column, which I didn't actually discover until I was all better from the back pain, but I did discover that I started to feel very powerful after getting better. And I wondered maybe I could start to apply this to getting better. And what I found is, sure enough, there is a time when symptoms are operating because of something I call power, which is about your relationship with you. Is it in a good place? If it's not in a good enough place, your symptoms can hit a plateau or stay at a plateau even when you're getting better, even when you've discovered mind body experience. So people don't even discover power column symptoms until they're actually getting much better. But once they do, they can hit that plateau, and it happens very frequently. I will walk you through how this system works, how to recognize each kind of symptom, which column it's in, and there's also things to do in each column. So I'll get to that in a second. The last thing I want to say about the columns is, what is the symptom function in these columns? Well, the reason that the emotions column has symptoms and those onsets and upticks is that the symptom wants to distract you. It is a psychological defense against your recognizing what that feeling is. And it's incredibly distracting. You will not be able to think about anything else when you're having symptoms like that. So distraction function is the function that needs to be disabled in the emotions column to get those symptoms to relent. The doubts function is protection. Doubt is like a helicopter parent. It thinks that you need protection from everything. So it instills worry in you everywhere you go about everything. And if you can just stay worried, you won't get into danger. Now, it's mistaken. You're not actually in danger. And we've got to convince it with science and logic, or sometimes understanding of the self. But once that happens, protection's no longer needed. That symptom goes away. In the power column, and this is kind of the end goal of symptoms. This is why you don't discover it until later in the game once you've actually reduced a lot of symptoms. The power column symptoms functions are communication. They want to communicate the parts of yourself that you not only need to know about, but need to do something about. In the emotions column, you need to just know about them. Just be aware of it. In the power column, the symptoms are telling you, you not only need to become aware of them, you actually need to do something about it. This is something that's just not good enough anymore. One way of thinking about it is that power column symptoms are you finally empathizing with yourself in ways that you really didn't before. And usually, I say the body is the most empathic identity we have. It cares when you're not aligned with yourself. Okay, so that's the system. There's many places to learn about it. I'll get into my website later, my groups, my seminars. I'm going to talk about the resources that you can get to if you want help with this. But do go to my website if you want to check it out. www.crushingdoubt.org.com also takes you there. And it'll give you all kinds of information. I'll get into the resources in a second. I'm going to take a few questions and then jump back to the resources. Okay. Scotty Styles has a question. What is your take on people thinking they need the gold stamp of approval from an official TMS diagnosis from a TMS doctor? Is it an additional doubt to think that we can't heal without believing the science and logic on our own? Okay, I'm going to get to the second question second, of course. But first of all, let me say TMS is a term that Sarno came up with. It's tension myositis syndrome. And that was what he used to describe mind body back pain. He did come to understand that was a more widespread experience. There are all kinds of symptoms that are not even pain related necessarily. But that term TMS is one of those terms. And the people who got better using Sarno, as I did, because I had to get the information to get better, and that's where I first got it, we sometimes use that term as a kind of basic description of mind-body experience. You're going to hear other terms as well. They're all the same. They all mean mind-body experience. So I actually use mind-body symptoms or mind-body issues in my book, but it doesn't really matter. It doesn't matter what you use. I'm not endorsing one versus another. I just think it's really important that we recognize they're all saying the same thing. The mind affects the body. Okay. Now, great question, Scotty. Let's get to this. There are people, and actually, I would say TMS or mind body medical practitioners tend to feel like you really need to have this. I understand where they're coming from because, they're in the medical field. They need to make sure the body is safe before we can progress with this kind of work. However, in my experience, there's really two ways to get there. You can get that kind of diagnosis, and that's wonderful. And I love that we have those doctors. They're fantastic doctors. They can really help to bring down doubt and make it clear there's nothing medically wrong with you. But that's the key, what I just said there. You don't necessarily have to go to those doctors to make sure there's nothing medically wrong with you. If you've gotten checked out by more than one doctor or even one good doctor, and they haven't found anything at all, and nothing is explaining what's happening in a clear medical way, then you don't actually have to go to a TMS doctor, in my opinion. There are different people who have different stances on this. My feeling is, listen, the goal is simply to make sure that we know you are medically fine before we progress with this work. Now, there's also a tricky part to this because sometimes people say, well, I did go to a doctor, and they gave me a diagnosis that I'm not fine. And then I find out, well, what's the diagnosis? I have a herniated disc. Here's the tricky part. There are diagnoses that doctors will give. A TMS doctor will not, and that's one huge advantage of them. That will say, oh, a herniated disc causes back pain, but it doesn't. We know that it doesn't. The studies show that it doesn't. There's a great website, the PPDA, which PPD is psychophysiologic disorder, just another term for this. And their website, I'm on their board. They're a great organization. It's run by Dave Clark. And their website has a great list of studies that show herniated discs don't cause back pain. Arthritis is not correlated to pain. None of these structural ideas that got argued as causing these pains and symptoms are actually the cause. And before we had imaging techniques, we didn't even know those things were there. In fact, the imaging techniques were part of the problem. In 1930, they didn't diagnose anybody as having a herniated disc because they didn't see it. Now they saw it. So I understand the potential logic of seeing it and thinking that's what caused it. But it turns out it's not true. So jumping back to Scotty's question, I don't think you have to do that. And in fact, it's kind of important that we get past that idea because there just aren't enough TMS doctors out there. I mean, everyone would have to fly across the country in a lot of circumstances and go to one of these people. And there's, the waiting lists can be very long. But I'm not just saying that for practicality. I'm also saying because really when we're thinking about it, what matters is that you're medically cleared. If you're medically cleared, then it's fine. And you can be medically cleared by a mind-body doctor. You can be cleared by having doctors look at you and say, I can't find anything that is medically wrong that I'm worried about. Or you can even be cleared by them saying, I found what's wrong with you, and their diagnosis is wrong. Any of those three, and you're in good shape. Okay, Scotty said, that's just it. Assuming we have ruled out medical pathology, the TMS doctor is not a requirement. Bingo. That's exactly how I think about it. There'd be no reason to think that there would be. We do have to do a good ruling out of medical pathology. But past that, you're free to start working on this. And listen, the vast majority of all physical experience, as I've found it, is mind-body. Okay, Jane Smith, good to see you here. She says, "Hi, Dr. Dan and Teresa and everyone. Dr. Dan, do you have a date for the book launch party?" So I'm working on the editing. It always gets slowed down because I have lots of things to do, but it also gets slowed down because I think of new things. Here's a good example. I told my back pain story and I was thinking about, okay, is it too much detail? And I realized, no, the reason I'm telling it in such detail is because people are going to see themselves in it. And so then I needed to go back and put something in the introduction about why am I telling this story in detail. So there's little details like that that I need to get to. But the date, I don't have a specific date. However, I should be done with this final edit by sometime in May, and I'm working with a cover designer and book designer. So we're probably looking at I'd say sometime in July. I'll keep you posted. Okay. All right. I'll get back to you on questions. It is Layla has joined us here. Good to see you here. And Jeannie Colwyn Coaching has joined us. Good to see you, Jeannie. Long time no see. I actually got to chat with Jeannie a little bit earlier today, and that was a pleasure. All right. Let's see. Now, Scotty then said, is it an additional doubt to think that we can't heal without believing the science and logic on our own? That's interesting. Let me read it again because there's subtlety in that question. Is it an additional doubt to think that we can't heal without believing the science and logic on our own? I like that point. Okay, so yes, I actually think in many ways it is. When I think about medical clearance, it's kind of a prerequisite, but I don't like to think of it as I can't be certain on my own. Absolutely. So I'm right there with you, Scotty. It's really important that we come to have listen, we're here to conquer doubt. There's a reason this is called crushing doubt. There are 3 columns, but the most important one is bring down doubt. When doubt is there, it has to be addressed. So that is an additional doubt. If you think, okay, yeah, I believe I have mind body issues and I've gotten a diagnosis, but I'm always going to be waiting for somebody else to be the one who fully believes it, and I can't ever get into the role of I can believe it all on my own. That's a doubt. In fact, I've described to people that one of the things you can do against doubt and to protect yourself from the doubts of others, and sometimes even the doubts of mind body practitioners, is to recognize once you know about this stuff really well, you know better than everybody. Everybody. So I say when you go to the doctor, it's a term that I use or a phrase that I use, put on your doubt armor. So what does that mean? Listen to them about what fits in their realm of expertise, which is medically what is safe and what is not. However, sometimes they're not even right about that. So we've got to call it into question. We need doctors. They do a good job with lots of things, especially protecting our lives. But we do need to try on the idea that maybe we actually know better. And it's been a huge part of the reason that I can do the work that I do is because I actually do feel like, you know what? I can be confident I know better. That was even true when I was new in the mind body community. And I was thinking, oh, maybe I need the endorsement of people in the field. Maybe I don't know as well. And I came to think about it. I investigated it. I found out what everybody thought. And I thought, I've got a good beat on this. And I came to have confidence in myself. So that's what Scotty's referring to. It's an additional doubt if we don't believe we can just believe it ourselves and know it ourselves. Okay, then Scotty said, in fact, needing to see a TMS doctor could be more costly and keep us on the medical merry-go-round, especially when we know it's TMS by the evidence. Yes. So Scotty's hitting right on it. You can be certain. You can at a certain point. Now, part of what I do is I help people look at these things so that they can get to that certainty, but not just about the diagnosis, but certainty in themselves, certainty in their ability to perceive and understand these things and believe that they know. And know is the key word, not think, know. So we use science and logic to move towards knowing, but you're also going to use your own experience to keep exploring until you can feel like, yeah, I know. Great question, Scotty. Thank you for highlighting that. Okay, Jeannie, thanks for saying hi here. Good to see you. Sue Conte has joined us. Good to see you here as well. Thanks, Jeannie. You said you loved meeting with me. I enjoyed it myself. And Catherine Toomer, thanks for joining us here. Okay, now Jane Smith has another question. I already love the start of this question. My allergies, she puts in quotes. My allergies are so bad. Now, first of all, I love that we're putting allergies in quotes because listen, I want to say there can be real allergic reactions. People can have like anaphylactic shock from bees when they're allergic to them. I'm not saying no allergies exist. However, the vast majority of allergies are allergies. They are mind body experiences. Seasonal allergies are notoriously that way. And I'm not saying any of this to insult anybody. Sometimes people can get upset about these things if they have that symptom and they want to think about it a certain way. But I just encourage you, try to think about it. Try to challenge that idea and wonder, is it possible that this is actually a mind body experience? Okay, I haven't even gotten to your question, Jane. I'm sorry. I got excited about the quotes. And I'm also not excited with you saying it's so bad. That sucks. I don't know what to think, though. I was doing so well with my migraines, and now I'm debilitated by allergies at times. So frustrated. Okay, now I want you guys to look at the structure of what Jane wrote because it's actually really important and really useful to you all. She said, and this is a phrase people use all the time in mind body work, and they say it to me, and I catch it and I know what it means. I was doing so well with X, and now this. When you hear that phrase, that's something that Sarno called the symptom imperative. You get rid of one symptom and another one comes in. Why is that happening? Because the symptom function hasn't been totally gotten rid of. Remember those symptom functions. In the emotions column, it is distraction. In the doubt column, it's protection. And in the power column, it's communication. If one of those symptom functions hasn't been reduced, you're going to get the symptom imperative. However, good news. If you're getting the symptom imperative, you don't need to worry that it's anything else. You also don't need to worry that you're not going to get past it because I think you know, Jane, that it's not something else. That's why you put allergies in quotes. But you're frustrated because you know this is mind body. I think. You tell me if I'm speaking for you and I'm not saying it right. But I think you know it's mind body. The frustration, and by the way, frustration is a form of doubt, is that, oh, I'm not going to be able to get past it. I got past one issue and now I have this. The good news is this. There's only 3 columns. There's only 3 functions. If you are still having symptoms, one of those columns is responsible for sure. Could be multiple columns, but at least one. And that's why my system's useful. It can get you all the information you need. So now I'm going to pause for a sec and talk about some of the resources on my website. But Jane, let me know if that kind of buoyed you up to know, listen, I understand your frustration, but there's a columns reason that you're getting stuck here, and we'll just find out what it is and get you past it. All right. Don't let doubt catch you because then what happens is you take one column's problem and it becomes another. That's what doubt does. It takes any problem and it's like, woohoo, now I can make you doubt. Don't let it. This is just something to figure out. Jane, let me know if that makes sense to you. Okay. Now, let's talk a little bit about the resources on my website because as I was saying, you need the information and you need to get to that certainty. And the column system is this nice, simple, elegant system. I feel like I'm bragging about my own system, but I use it all the time. It really works better than anything else for me. It even worked better than 20 years of therapy on emotional things. So if you go to my website, www.crushingdoubt.org, you can get a number of things there. But the 2 main things that you can get there right now are my pre-recorded seminars. This is 8 sessions of me talking all about mind-body experience and helping to demystify why one person says this and another person says this and why do they say this then and why do they say this at another time. We need answers that are totally comprehensive and fit all the moments. And so these seminars describe these moments and what's going on and help you feel like you can understand it in one comprehensive way. Then I go ahead and attack doubt. I lay out all the science and the logic that just tears doubt to shreds so that you should know you got mind-body issues. They are resolvable. You can do this. Then we move into what are the columns. I describe what they are, how to understand them, and how to use them. So I give you all what you need to do the work in the seminar. After that, though, a lot of times people need some support implementing it. And that's what the groups are for. One of the things I love about the groups, It's a similar format to this in that mostly it's question and answer. But where it's different is there's a lot more back and forth in any one sitting. So you ask a question, I might say, "Oh, wait, hold on. What were you wondering about here? Why'd you use this word? Is it something you worried about there?" Or I say something and then you say, "Wait, hold on. What did you mean by that?" There's a lot more give and take. So we just get a lot further in every sitting. And these are Zoom calls. They're not recorded. Um, but they are these times where you can implement the system with me. They're Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. It's Mondays at 5 p.m. Eastern, Wednesdays 12 p.m. Eastern, and Fridays 2 p.m. Eastern. And I tried to make the time so that people around the world could use them, even like in Australia, Europe, Asia, anywhere. There usually is a time that can work for people. So you can learn about the system and there's ways to implement it. Okay, let me say hi to a couple more people. Patty Clark, good to see you here again. Rude Master 27, good to see you again. And let me get back to some questions. Now, listen, I also want to make sure if I miss saying hi to you or I miss your question, it is never deliberate. I never want to leave anybody out. So make sure you just let me know. Hey, you missed my question, and I will get back to you. Okay. Let's see. All right. Scotty had another question. What are the 3 functions that are correlated with the columns again? Okay. So the emotions column is for acute onsets and upticks in symptoms, and the function is distraction. The symptom wants to distract you from an emotional experience that you could become consciously aware of, doesn't want you to, it distracts. In the doubt column, the doubt just wants to rage on and on and on and expand its territory. And why? Because of its function, protection. It thinks you're in danger. If you're worried enough and you're careful enough, then you'll be fine. That's how doubt thinks. It's not correct, but that's how it thinks. And in the power column, the function is communication. There are parts of you that you, deep down, want you to know about so that you'll do something about it. The communication is what's the problem and what do we need to do about it? All right, Scotty, let me know if I addressed that well enough. All right. Okay. Dorisa, let's see what question you have. Even if you have an issue, mind body learning has really helped reduce pain. In fact, I have not taken over the counter pain meds since May of 2021. Great. Do take meds for my issue. There's some medical issue you're talking about, Dorisa. I think you're talking about rheumatoid arthritis, but I'm not sure. Let me know if I have that right. But I like what you're saying here. This is helpful. And one of the reasons that the groups are helpful and the Q&As are helpful, it's not just when I'm answering your question, it's when I'm answering everybody's question. If I can answer questions in ways that fit together in one comprehensive understanding, and we keep practicing that comprehensive understanding, it's going to help reduce your doubt. So it's not just when you ask your questions, every question should be moving you towards less doubt. So then let me get back to what Teresa said. Mind-body learning has really helped reduce pain. In fact, I've not taken, okay, so that's a big deal. When you hear this, let's say you're struggling with pain and you're like, oh, that person got better, but I didn't. Well, that's just doubt. That's doubt saying to you that, okay, see, I was right, Teresa. Okay, you were talking about the RA. All right. So when you hear somebody's gotten better and you're like, oh, I haven't, that's just doubt. Everybody can get better from mind-body issues because they're completely reversible. They're actually benign, meaning they won't harm you. They suck. In fact, some of the most painful and uncomfortable symptoms I've ever had have been mind-body, but they will not harm you. And they're all reversible. And it doesn't matter who you are. We all work the same way. So you can get past these issues. You can reduce pain. Doris is a good example of it. And we have thousands of them, myself being another one of them. But it's another function of group that's great. You go there and when you hear the success stories, that helps you feel encouraged. When you hear somebody struggling, you can identify with it. But overall, I'm answering questions as to why you're all going to get better. You all can get better from this. Teresa, thank you for sharing that. I'm so glad you're having less pain. I see you say, I do get discomfort. I do want to encourage you, push back against doubt. Don't settle for anything that isn't the full relief that you really want, unless there is a medical condition holding you back, which is very rare. Even with rheumatoid arthritis, I think you can push this much further. I think we can get your discomfort down even more. Let's work at it. Let's go after doubt. Be ferocious with doubt. That's one of my sayings is I say be ferociously in your own corner, and that's a power column sort of way. But you also have to be ferocious against doubt. It's going to try to get you off kilter. You got to attack it. And sometimes you're not going to be able to do it as well alone. That's where I come in. My certainty, in fact, can do a lot of damage to doubt. So let's keep at it. Okay, Lynn Slavensky, good to see you. She says, I have a lot of data that it is mind-body, but when I sit for longer periods of time, the pain feels so real and structural that I have to work hard to push back doubt. Suggestions. Okay, so one thing that you guys will learn about me or maybe already have learned about me, is I'm very specific with words because words have not only meaning, but they have meaning that gets channeled from your brain into your body. So Lynn, I'm reading this. I'm reading some of the words and there's something important here. You said the pain feels so real and structural. My first suggestion is separate real and structural. Mind-body issues are all real. They all are actually happening in the body, but are they structural? The word structural means there's something about the structure of the body, and it's not going to change until that structure changes. Well, most mind-body issues have nothing to do with structure. Actually, all mind-body issues don't really have to do with structure. They have to do with aspects of the body that can change all the time. Blood flow, muscles, soft tissue, all of these things can change and kind of morph. So the first thing I want to do is separate out real versus structural. It feels real, but that's making you think it is structural, that it can only be real if it's structural. That's not true. It is real. I've had symptoms that are incredibly real, and they feel like a broken bone, or they feel like something is really wrong, or they feel like there's a tumor there. I mean, you can have all kinds of feelings. In fact, sensory perception, your brain can generate any feeling, and the feeling becomes real. Mind-body symptoms. You can have itching, you can have burning, you can have pins and needles, you can have pain, you can have sickness. There's all kinds of things you can have, and it's all real, but it isn't structural. So that's the first thing. Now, other suggestions. I want you to I was thinking about you, Lynn, about this, because one of the things we should talk about is whether you're getting variation in your symptoms. What happens when people push back against doubt is often it starts to move around a little bit. If I'm recalling correctly, yours have actually moved around some. And what you need to do is bring in success when that happens. Now, if it hasn't moved around some, it's usually a sign that there's still doubt there. And that's what you're describing here. When I read this, it is doubt driven. I have a lot of data that it's mind body, but doubt's favorite word is but. When you hear the word but, you know a doubt is coming. And I don't mean that critically, Lynn. I mean it supportively. But when I sit for long periods of time, the pain feels so real. So we haven't yet turned the corner where and this is a suggestion not only for Lynn, but for anybody in this situation. We haven't turned the corner where you've started to think, this is a physical manifestation of how I feel. This is a physical manifestation of the emotional world, of the doubt world. I'm afraid, and that fear feels like this. I don't know how convinced you are of that yet, Lynn, but what I really want to get to is the fact that your body is feeling what you feel inside, emotionally and in your thinking. So that is a huge suggestion that I would make, is start to think about the physicality of it. It's real, but start to think of it as a manifestation of your mind. And I need to ask you now, there's always follow-up, but I need to ask you, did that do enough for you to have something to go on? All right, let's go from there. All right. It is Layla said, just as I began accepting it being mind body, my symptoms have gotten stronger, and now it's two of them at once. They used to take turns. Why does that happen? All right. So this is a great question, and it's an important answer for Layla, sorry, because this is what you're believing and grappling with, but it's important for all of you. You could run into this. So the reason this happens is that doubt wants to protect. It wants to protect against anything that could harm you. And one of the things that it thinks could harm you is power. Again, let's go back to the helicopter parent idea. A helicopter parent isn't just going to protect you from bears in the woods or, you know, a mugger or something like that. They're also going to protect you from, oh, don't put yourself too far out there because you could get hurt. So they protect you from power. They say, no, maybe you don't want to go out for that part in the play because it would be scary, right? That's the kind of thing a helicopter parent actually does, and that's what doubt does. So, Layla, I know because I know I'm tracking where you're at with this. I know this is happening because you were getting very, very close to feeling really powerful over doubt. We had it in a good spot, and we still do, by the way. It just doesn't feel it right now. We've pushed it to the brink. It's fighting back really hard because it is losing. So you said, how come it's gotten stronger and now there's two at once? Because doubt is desperate. It's losing. Your goal against doubt is to push it enough that it starts to give up, or it starts to compromise with, okay, fine. Can I just maybe have you have a little itch? Maybe just a minor headache or something like that. It tries to settle for less. If you can push through this moment and recognize this is actually happening because it's a power column kind of reason, you're getting close to power. Doubt wants you to be afraid. If you can push through this, you'll get to the other side even stronger. So it's not just doubt that can become twice as strong. You can become twice as strong. You can become 10 times as strong. And that's what's going to happen. And I'm not just saying this to motivate you. This is actually true. I've seen it happen time and again, and with me. We've got to interpret this the right way. If I can show you how doubt is operating and why in a way that is believable and plausible, then try it on and push back against doubt. Do it again. Say, fine. All right. It's annoying. I don't like it. You've made two symptoms, but I'm not going to get worried that you're going to cause more because it's just doubt. The only thing that can cause more symptoms in this situation is if doubt goes up. But guess what? Not only do you have control over whether that potentially happens, but you're also not alone. I am right there with you, and doubt is in trouble. It's actually in bad shape. I know you're looking at it and thinking, oh my God, it got worse. Actually, doubt's in bad shape. This is good. It's on the brink. Now we got to go after it. Layla, let me know if that answers your question, okay? Rudemaster27, asks, how's the book coming along? It's coming along great. It's becoming a better and better book, but it's taken some time because there's really important details I've got to get right. I'm in the final copy edit. I am through. I've got 6 chapters of this final copy edit left, and that should take me probably a month to 6 weeks at most. And so we're looking at a July release date, which I can't wait for. I'll keep you posted. All right. Karen Isaacs, thank you for your patience. Last week, we discussed that I couldn't lift my arm, shoulder dislocation, 20 years, still have fears. After we discussed it, it's basically fine. But of course, that's fantastic. Karen, thank you for sharing the good news. And by the way, these little, I shouldn't say they're little, that's pretty big. This is something that could have cascaded into trouble if you didn't know all the things you know, Karen, and you knew things even before coming to see me, having seen Sarno many years ago and worked on this so much even before coming here. But I know the columns have helped you even more, especially just knowing. That's just doubt. You went straight for it. You and I discussed what it was about, and now it's basically fine. And of course, that's perfectly said. Okay, now Karen then says, my sister was never a Sarno patient, but she's been listening to me for 33 years. She forgets. I remind her. She told me she, quote, threw her back out from golf. I reminded her. Now she's fine. Karen, I love these stories, and they're very important for people. So thank you for sharing, because we need as many stories of these as possible. If everyone we knew had stories like this, and we got the science out there that these structural issues aren't actually correlated to pain, and we actually get this message out there, which is my mission over the next 40 to 50 years, I'm going to keep pushing this. We're all going to get this message out there together, and everybody's going to know it. And then people won't be saying I threw out my back. They will be an educated society. I don't mean that dismissively of people who don't know, but I just mean in terms of having the information. And if everybody knows, they won't think about it that way. They'll be like, I was playing golf, something upset me. There went the back. They'll just know it, just like we do. But Karen, isn't it great to be in the know? And you're doing a great job with it. All right. Dorisa says fatigue or energy drains, trying to figure out how do I overcome this? Rheumatologist says this is normal. Okay. So Dorisa, it is possible it's normal to some degree. However, I do want to encourage you. Energy levels are really, really very tied to mind body experience. Um, I can, if I'm playing basketball, I can have boundless energy after having 3 hours of sleep. And then I can have days where I've gotten, I rarely get 9 hours of sleep, but let's use it as a hypothetical. There's sometimes when I will, and I'll be totally sluggish. And it really all comes down to what your mindset is. You can even see this with professional athletes. They come out for a game and they look flat. And the way I see it, I'm like, ooh, they got their trauma activated. They're upset about something. And that's why they're off. So, what I want you to do, you said trying to figure out how do I overcome this. I want you to treat fatigue and energy drains like any other symptom. When you treat them like they're a different kind of symptom, doubt has room to play. So I want you to go after that. All right. Go after it like it's just any other symptom. Treat it through the columns. Right now, I would say there's a little bit of doubt there. It's coming really in the form of question or uncertainty. So it's not super high level, which is good. But let's treat it as doubt. Let's go after it. And then you said, I feel like I need to do a balancing act. I think doubt still got you a little bit pinned down in this particular symptom. And I want you to push back against it. You shouldn't have to do a balancing act for that. Even with rheumatoid arthritis, there's no reason for that. I am 100% confident if we push back against these symptoms, you're going to be doing better. So as simple as it may sound, it's really important. Let's just push back against the doubt. That's what that is. Dorisa, though, doesn't matter what I think. It matters what you think. So I want to hear your thoughts. Okay. Lynn Slavinsky says, yes, thank you. I'm glad that does help, Lynn. Let's keep talking about it. I do have some other ideas. We can talk about it in group as well if need be. Okay. Debbie Grubb says, how does my eye vision fall into TMS if it's not a pain, but I can't see clearly? All right. I'm going to answer this in a particular way, Debbie, and we can get to it more as needed. But TMS, again, is another, it's a term for mind body. So whatever term you use doesn't matter. But you got to remember, mind body issues are not just pain. They are any symptom you can have. Here's the way I think about it, Debbie, and this is good for you, but for everybody. Your body has thousands of different functions, and every single one of those functions can get taken over by a mind-body experience. Doesn't matter what it is. And think about it. We already know this. Crying is actually a mind-body experience. You feel sad or sometimes happy or whatever big emotion, and your tear ducts actually change and physical tears roll down your face. When you get embarrassed, the blood flow to your face changes, you blush. These are mind-body experiences. And these are different kinds of experiences. You can have it with pain. You can have it with blood flow. You can have it with your tear ducts. You can have it with feeling dehydrated or not. You can have it with a headache. You can have it with brain fog. You can have it with burning, with itching. Any function your body has, or something gut related, any function your body has is already there. It's the function's there. Now, what happens with that function? Well, if it's needed for a mind-body experience, it gets taken over in the mind-body process. Now, let me explain how that works from a physiological standpoint. The brain has messengers that it sends between its cells called neurotransmitters. Neurotransmitters, though, only go between brain cells. The hormone system in the body is what can send a chemical messenger from the brain to any cell in the body, telling it to do whatever it needs to do. So it can send it to your eye. It can change the shape of your lens. It can make even your perception be different, but it's doing something. And I've had this happen with many people. In fact, this was a very common experience. We just had the eclipse, and I said to my daughters, there are going to be so many eye-related mind-body symptoms after this eclipse. And not only, I'm sure, have there been, but even I got worried about my eyes, even knowing what I know. Doubt comes creeping in. So you got to remember, any experience can be mind-body. Debbie, let's see if that worked for you, okay? Okay, Cindy J. Attias has joined us here. Good to see you, Cindy. I'm 95% there. Do you have any suggestions on how to conquer the 5%? Okay, so the first thing I would say, Cindy, is I might need to find out what that 5% probably is, or what it really relates to. Like, do you have any lingering doubts? Oh, you're welcome, Debbie. Do you have any lingering doubts that we need to crush? Do you uh, are you having onsets and upticks that might relate to emotion, or do you feel like you've mastered the power column? So I would really just go through the three columns to assess, and you can do that on your own, by the way. But I'm just telling you what I would do to think about it. However, I also think when I hear you're 95% there, how do you conquer that last 5%? Usually that's going to be a power column issue. Cindy said, funny foot pain when I'm supposed to be someplace. Okay, so funny foot pain when you're supposed to be someplace sounds like an emotions column event. But here's the thing. The way the columns work is you want to keep doubt on at a low hum. Just keep trying to shrink it. You want to look at emotions when you have an onset or an uptick of a symptom, like the foot pain. But when you've got 95% there, 5% not, my guess, Cindy, would be to look at the power column because that sounds like a plateau. I've gotten almost all the way there, but I'm just not quite there. I would want to look at the power column and see, is there something in your experience that maybe you're not processing yet about your emotional experience that your body wants you to know? That would be my guess, but we need to talk more. You can always email me at dan@crushingdoubt.org if you want to know more about it. You said totally this, so it seems like I've hit on what sounds right to you. So let's explore that together. You can come here for the Q&A. You can come to groups. You can email me, whatever you want to do. But let's keep talking about it, okay? I really want to make sure I'm not missing anybody here. Okay. Jane Smith says, thanks, Dr. Dees. It is such a blow to be feeling so unwell again. I doubt I can, doubt in all capitals, I can ever get better enough just to live my life. You can, Jane. This is actually doubt fighting you. It's similar to what I was saying to Layla. You're getting close to power. Doubt doesn't want you to be able to function on your own. It doesn't want you to be fine. It's afraid that you shouldn't be fine. It's too dangerous. So it's going to try to get you doubting again. That's all that's happening. And actually, that reframe can help you. You're feeling kind of hopelessness about this, but hopelessness is another form of doubt. Almost everything where you're experiencing bad feeling is doubt. That's all it is. And your job is to not buy it. Remember, in the doubt column, there are 3 tasks: observe, articulate, and counter. Observe is to call it into question. Articulate is to get it into words. And counter is to go after it with science and logic until you don't believe it anymore. This is an observe sort of moment. I know you're saying, I doubt I can ever get better, but you're actually thinking it's true. I'm not saying that critically, Jane, but that's what happens with doubt. It convinces you it's not just doubt, it's true. So then you start to feel like, ooh, now I'm doubting and it's actually true. This is really bad. Not true. Doubt is a pathological liar. It is wrong every time. All right. I'm sorry you're struggling. I totally get it. I've even been there myself. But your job is to always push back against doubt, no matter what's happening. And that's true right now also. So get back up on the horse and say to yourself, I'm not letting you win. I will not do it. You got to have an iron will against doubt. All right. So go after it. Let's see. It is Layla says, thank you so much. I feel lucky to be able to work through it with you. My pleasure, Layla. I feel lucky to be able to work with you on it. And you're doing great. You're on a very good path. This is just one of those moments where doubt knows it's got a couple of moments where it could trick you and mess you up before you win this whole thing. And it's going to try, but just stick with me and it's not going to happen. Okay. All right. Steve Smith, good to see you here. Oops, sorry. All right. I know I have TMS, but so much confusion in what to do to get better. Somatic tracking, journaling, rereading, saying certain things again and again, and none of it works. What to do? Need clear and simple instructions to follow. Well, you came to the right place as far as I'm concerned, Steve. Now you said, the issue is I got a book cure very quickly, and after it came back, my brain feels like I need to get better just as fast again, and I don't know how to get better in a slower way. All right. So, Steve, first of all, this is very common to get a book cure and then have symptoms come back and really freak out because what you did that helped before isn't working now. Doubt loves to pounce on anything. That's one of the things it'll pounce on. Oh my God, The thing that I was doing that worked before isn't working. What am I going to do? And I'm not mocking you for that. I'm mocking doubt, actually. It's trying to get you to be worried about that. And you are asking for something that is right on. I need clear and simple instructions to follow. Here, let me go back to your first point. So much confusion about what to do. Somatic tracking, journaling, rereading, saying certain things again and again. None of it works. The thing that works is full belief. And how do you get to full belief? It has to make full sense. So, Steve, the reason I think you came to the right place here is my system will tell you why. Why does somatic tracking work when it works? Why does journaling work when it works? Why do those things not work when they don't work? Why does it work to say certain things at certain times, but not at others? Here's a good example. If you say to yourself over and over, you're safe, well, there's a big difference between saying that and believing it or just saying it. If you're just saying it, it won't work. And nobody's giving you real reason to feel safe because it doesn't make full sense. The columns actually make full sense. This is one of the things that I promise with it, is they are designed to make full sense of the whole mind-body experience, to give you a system and these clear, simple instructions you're looking for. The columns are as close of anything to that as I've ever found. I had to create it myself because I had the same experience you did. But we can get you those instructions. What I would want to do, Steve, is have a discussion with you about how I can get you that information and get you those clear and simple instructions to follow. Okay, so let's talk about it. You can email me, dan@crushingdoubt.org. All right, or keep coming here and asking questions. All right, let me know if that helps. But you can get those answers, and you deserve those answers. And I completely agree with you. Jane Smith said, Steve, what finally helped me was figuring out whether I was having a corrective experience in the moment or a setback based on feedback from my body in the moment. Interesting. Yeah. So how we interpret what's happening to us is important, because it's like what Layla was saying. Oh my God, this feels like a setback, but actually this is an experience that's leading towards progress. And you guys, it's like we all need a symptom interpreter. And that's really one of my functions. I can interpret what the symptoms are doing and why until it makes full sense to you. Doesn't matter if it makes sense to me, except for me. It matters if it makes sense to you. Okay. Jane then said, Dr. Dan articulated it as do what helps. Yes. If it brings down your doubt, do it. If it makes your doubt go up, don't do it. You know, if saying something and it not working just makes you doubt more, then don't do that. Let's find a better path. All right. Then Jane said, when none of it worked for me, I had to acknowledge that none of it was working for me. Yep. I had to find the rare glimpses, and that led to a breakthrough. All right. So it is important to let in this idea that, some of these things don't work. Journaling is a good example. It can help a lot of people, but at the same time, I sometimes call it beating your head against the emotional brick wall. Look for the emotion, look for the emotion, look for the emotion. Well, what if it's doubt? Then you're looking for an emotion, and that's not even the cause. The columns lay out these different ideas to show you why, and they can get you certainty. All right. You're welcome, Steve. Thank you for being here. Let's talk about it. Okay. All right. Teresa says, thanks. I will treat it like another symptom. Perfectly. Eyes are an extension of the brain. Eyes are like a camera. Yep. Absolutely. Now, Scotty Styles said, oh my God, yes, I got worried about my eyes too. I had eye socket pain because I went for a walk 3 hours before the eclipse. Is extremely common. I mean, anybody who has mind-body issues, which by the way is the entirety of the human race, because it is the human condition, has this kind of experience. Your brain never stops. It's taking in things. Scotty said, I had to tell myself that this was just a doubt and it was nonsense. I was wearing a hat, sunglasses, and didn't look at the sun. Exactly. It's amazing how we have to walk ourselves through it. Also, it was virtually cloudy, not to mention the eclipse hadn't even happened yet. So wild. Yeah, we can imagine imagine is not the right word for it, but our brains can use their imaginations to make a feeling state or a thought real, and then it becomes real in the body. So pay attention to that. It's incredibly strong what goes on in your mind. Okay. Steve, I also had a quick, Jane says, Steve, I also had a quick book cure at first. What helped me was Dr. D, that's me, saying something will get instantly better. Some things will get instantly better. It will feel like something clicked into place. When does it click into place? It's when you can understand it. Okay, thanks, Dr. D. I will have to rely on your belief for now. I'm so down about this after starting to feel more hope finally. Okay, that is the same thing I was saying to Layla. You are starting to move into power, and it's coming back at you. I know it's hard, but also don't think you're always going to feel this way. You could wake up tomorrow morning and be like, "Okay, I got more energy for it. I'm going to go after it again." Don't let doubt back you in a corner no matter what. All right? But if you have to rely on my belief for now and that helps you, then do it. As long as it helps you. We'll get that doubt. The only way doubt wins is if you give up. That's the only way that it can possibly win. One of the things that I like to say when I'm having a lot of doubt is it's only a matter of time. Doubt cannot, it's like, if we think of doubt as a pathological liar, you keep it out there telling its lies for long enough, it's going to expose itself. It happens all the time. So endurance is one of the keys to fighting doubt. All right. Catherine Toomer, good to see you here. Hi, Dr. Dan. Thank you for today. I'm rather hopeless, but really only because I've made good improvement, but then seeing how far I have to go. Just listening is helping. Thanks as always. Well, listen, we're all going to have days where we feel kind of hopeless. The way that I think about this, and this is an important thing to orient you to, there's a particular kind of doubt. It's fear-based, but I want to highlight it. It's what I call trauma activation. Most people, being a person can be traumatic, and trauma activation means all of those traumatic moments where a moment changed and suddenly it was never the same again. Those can get brought back to us by something that happens in the present. And when that happens, our trauma is activated. And that's going to get us into spaces that are the worst kind of doubt. Hopelessness is a sign that trauma has been activated. So Jane, that's for you. Catherine, that's for you. Layla, I think it's even for you as you got another symptom. I think that activated your trauma and it got you to feel like, oh no, I'm unsafe. This is getting really bad, right? When you start to go down that path, it's a sign that your trauma is activated. That is a form of doubt. If you can recognize that this is just a strong form of doubt and it will pass, it never lasts for more than a day. I mean, unless you're continuing to spin in it. But if you can look at it, never lasts for more than a day. You can get past that. Okay. But I'm glad it's helping to listen. Cindy then said, Catherine, I couldn't walk, and a year later I can run, do jumping jacks. You can do it. Thank you for sharing that, Cindy. Very inspiring and wonderful to hear, and I'm so pleased that what we talked about is helping. I know you did some other things as well. All right. I'm guessing you did, but you did work on it. You worked on what was going on in your mind, and you're getting there. It's great. All right. We're going to take one last comment or question, and we'll go from there. Okay, Steve Smith says, I purchased the PDF and wanted to know I have both emotional turmoil in life, which brings up my symptoms like now, but even worse, I have consistent pain in the back always. Which column should I do? Okay, well, Steve, it's not actually hard to do all three columns. You don't have to pick one column. What you need to do is master the basics of the columns. They're not that hard to do. And so you can do the work of both. Let me lay it out for you, though. First of all, the consistent back pain that's always there, that's the doubt column. You hear the word consistent, it's always there or repetitively there. Go after it in doubt. When it comes to symptoms, the onset and uptick in symptoms, like let's say your back got suddenly significantly worse, then I would look for what's the emotional turmoil. And if it's a different symptom that had an onset or an uptick, I'd look at the emotions. This is part of what I was saying, Steve, and what you were asking for is there's a very simple system that will help you evaluate each type of moment. You're actually presenting two different types of moments. One is an emotions column moment. Another is a doubt column moment. And you can do them at the same time, but you have to recognize which is which. And that's part of the organization. So I hope that helps, Steve. But, keep me posted. We'll talk. Okay. All right. Jane says, thanks again, Dr. Dan. Good to see you today. I hope I can find another breakthrough. Keep in mind, Jane, you got activated trauma. That's why this is going on right now. That's going to change. Guys, again, you can always reach me, dan@crushingdoubt.org, but you can also go to my website and check out the various resources that I have there, www.crushingdoubt.org. And once again, you can get my teaching seminars there, and you can get them in the middle of the night. Let's say you're like, I need information. I need to understand this. I need to know why one person says this and another person says this, just what Steve was asking. You can get it anytime you want. Order the seminars. They're great pre-recorded material. I tell you all that you need to know. I set you up for how to understand what the columns are and how you're going to use them. And then you can also join my groups. So they are Mondays at 5 p.m. Eastern, Wednesdays 12 p.m. Eastern, and Fridays at 2 p.m. Eastern. And you can come talk to me, and you can do it on a regular basis. And these are very cost effective, the groups especially. But really, I try to make everything that I do cost effective in a way. Some of them can be expensive. I'll put in quotes, but the groups are not. They're cost effective, like even just in a garden variety way of understanding what is cost effective, because I know there's so many sufferers out there, and you guys need things. You need resources you can use. So if you have questions about it, just send me an email. We'll talk about it. Dan@crushingdoubt.org. It has been great being with you. Cookie Nat, thank you for joining us here. You're just coming in on the tail end today, but you can watch this in the replay. And I also will be here next week at the same time. So Rita, thanks for saying thank you. Good to see you here. Guys, it's been a pleasure as always. My main thing that I want to leave you with is just make sure you keep asking your questions. Don't let doubt convince you that this can't work. There's always an answer. Just keep asking your questions and make sure they get answered to your satisfaction. All right. My pleasure seeing you all, and I look forward to seeing you same time next week. Okay. Thanks, guys.